we got in a battle on the 17th of March of 1969. Echo Company was on top of a hill, a little hill that was called Hill 54. It was 54 meters above sea level. Didn't mean anything, but so we're sitting up there, 52 men strong on this little hilltop. And this hilltop is probably 15 meters by 30 meters tops. And we've got some foxholes dug around it. We have this little radar unit called an AN-PPS-5. It was just a little bitty radar dish. And it had a range of about 5,000 meters. That's all. And so it's looking out over the plain of the river that's flowing out in front of us, and it leads right into Benoit. Mm-hmm. So this is a major area for enemy to move through. So that's why we're up there with that radar. And about 12:30 in the morning, I hear these explosions, and they're only about 30 or 40 feet away from me.
Wow.
And they're loud. And so I jump up and I look and I see a couple of bad guys right in the middle of that hilltop. They're throwing satchel charges into our mortar pits and towards the bunkers. And I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to get my people off this hilltop? I don't know that I can. Well, it turns out that we have a reinforced NVA battalion with orders to annihilate us.
Wow.
And we fought until 6:30 in the morning. And we had 11 killed and 26 wounded out of our 52. But we did some damage on their side too. The estimates of enemy kills were somewhere around up to 200. So, okay. So we just, but we never knew about how many we really killed because, they drag people off and we inflate the figures and, one blood trail equals 2 dead, there's all sorts of things like that. But we did some damage to them.
Let me ask you this, because a few minutes ago you were describing the strong camaraderie that exists between combatants.
Yeah.
And now you're describing this battle that takes place that goes on for some 6 hours or longer. And I think you said of your 52, there were 11 killed in action. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
So one of the things that I've, picked up from combat veterans, and I'm interested in hearing your response to this, is on the one hand, there is this intense camaraderie. But when you lose one of those guys, you also have to have the ability just to let it go and to move on.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a paradox there of this intense connection, but then also you have to be at the same time able to function well. You have to be able to let that connection go and move on, at least for the time being. Is that right?
Yeah. The hardest thing was knowing that they no longer had an opportunity to raise children, to live a good life. They no longer had any opportunity. And they had given up that opportunity um, to ensure that I was still alive. And one of the things that, well, for those of us with PTSD, one of the hardest parts of PTSD to overcome is survivor's guilt.
Mm.
And during my time as a platoon leader and company commander, I lost a total of 17 people. And when I came home after my first tour, there were some other lieutenants on board that plane, and they were talking about, how many did you lose? Well, I didn't lose any. Well, I had one wounded, but I didn't lose anybody. And and then when it comes to me, and they say, how many did you lose? And I 17. And all of a sudden, it's very quiet, and nobody wants to hear the story.
I do. How often do those 17 go through your mind?
Every day, every single day. Yeah, there's some people have said, that they've been asked if you were in Vietnam. Yeah, I was. Well, when were you there? Well, it was last night. Yeah. It's a constant. You can't get rid of it. Now, some of it I don't want to get rid of. Some of it I want to make sure that I remember. Some of it I want to make sure that my kids remember, because it's important. It's important that these 17 men are remembered for what they did. We'll forget the war, but we certainly shouldn't forget those men, because they were willing to give everything they had in defense of the country.
So you said that there are some things you want to make sure that that these things are not forgotten.
Yeah.
What are the one or two things that you would put at the very top of that list?
The honor and the bravery that those men had, and that they portrayed. I didn't have to ask them twice to do something. During that fight, we had bunkers that were destroyed. I had to move people from one bunker to another, to make sure that we had all the gaps filled. I never once had anybody say, why are you going to move me? Or I don't want to go. Or, if I said, I want you to go to bunker 4, they went to bunker 4. They did it. They did exactly what I asked them to do all night long.
Mm.
That's bravery, and that's honor. And I don't want anybody to ever think that any of those men were less than honorable or less than brave, because what they did was all that we could have asked. We couldn't have asked a thing more of them. Every one of them, every one of my 11 on that hill, every one of them died with an empty weapon. With an empty weapon. They fought all the way. That's worth talking about.